Good morning, everybody. Rick Thomas from Obsolete Video Services. Hey, guys. All right. Today I'm going to do a video on this particular machine. We are running this as a test so I can do a discussion video for people. I've been getting a lot of emails about this particular machine, and I do repairs on these machines from time to time. So today's a good day to actually make a video about this to answer your questions that you guys have been sending me, since I don't have time to answer an awful lot of emails. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a video, and I've read all the emails. I know what all the main questions are, so let's get into it. First of all, I got an email, or two emails from two particular gentlemen saying that they have this machine, and is it necessary to use a time-based corrector? They are using one on their particular machines, and they're not getting very good quality results. And they were wondering if I can tell them why. All right, to the people who have the 8650 here, and if you're not using a time-based corrector or frame sync like I am, you're not going to get superior quality out of this machine, guys, because you really do need to use a time-based corrector if you're using an Av-8650. The Av-8650 is more lenient, and the Sony models are more lenient. When you use time-based correctors, you get much better video playback and quality out of the tapes. So question one would probably be either you have a really bad tape that wasn't recorded very well, and number two, if you're not using a time-based corrector to make your captures with this machine, you're not going to get all that great of quality. You will get a lot of flagging at the top of the tape. As you can see, we have no flagging on mine. That's because we're running everything through a time-based corrector, and we also got our video systems gen-locked, so we're getting even better picture with a complete gen-locked TBC frame sync. So that way the video is steady, the tracking locks in a lot better, you don't have to mess with your tracking that much, and you get a solid lockup on the video. The Panasonic machines are not that lenient with really high quality playback. So if you have a Panasonic like this one, it's an NV3160. It is a very high quality machine, but you're not going to get a perfect playback on those guys without really having a good machine and a good TBC frame sync to run your tapes. So if you're doing videotapes with EIAJ like this and you want sort of a perfect playback, I would jump to the Sony AV8650 for that. You get a much solid playback with not as much noise at the top and bottom of the picture. And if you got a time-based corrector and frame sync like I'm using, in Gen-Lock systems like these, you're going to get a much better video output on your capture, top and bottom. Where the where the actual Panasonics, the tape would be dragging in a grooved drum, and you'll always get that upper top, like little, it's like a flagging drag mark at the top. That's caused by the drum itself, because they have the tape going into a groove, where the Sony models didn't have that. They basically had a groove on the bottom for the tape to drag along, but did not have a groove in the top to create that noise in the picture like the Panasonics does. So as far as playback and usability, you want to use a time-based frame sync or a time-based corrector, a good one. Make sure you're gen-locked. And if you're looking for an EIAJ color playback with really, really good picture without any issues worrying about playback and from tape to tape interchangeability, I would go with the Sony AV8650. This is a very good machine when they're serviced and working. Now, let's bring up that point about service and working. First of all, these machines are notorious for bad motor run capacitors. That's what runs the motor in these units. I do custom repair these with brand new motor run capacitors, so that way you don't have no issues with the motor slowing down because the capacitors are going bad. This 8650 does have problems sometimes with their color boards. Normally it could be a capacitor or it could be just a trimmer that's very dirty on those. In my case, the board was bad, and I happen to have another one to swap out in the unit. And also I replaced the Y board and the audio card because these two weren't really working that well as well. I did have another machine for parts, so I was able to put the best parts on my machine to fix it. But these do have problems if they've been sitting in some really bad environments. You may have a board problem on these if you're not able to identify the problem. If I get the deck in for service, I can spot it right away. But generally, you're going to have basically motor run caps. They're capacitors that run the motor. That's one of the biggest problems in this machine. I do repair that to answer several emails I did get. They said the machine is, they're running the machines and once they get hot, they're just slowing down. That basically means your motor run capacitor that runs the motor in the unit is going bad. It's a common problem on this machine. I basically put all new custom caps in and done with that problem, so I don't have to ever be dealing with motors slowing down on these units. I do it to almost all my machines, including the Panasonic, including the skip field machines, and the Sony Av-8650 Pilot Tones. I replace all the motor run capacitors in these machines because I don't want to have the motors slowing down while I'm trying to do a customer job. All right, and I think I had another question, which is not really that important, but since it's on my machine and it's already done, I could point it out. You can, if you know how to wire it up. I got people who say they got this machine and they want to use the slow feature, and on their slow feature, and their slow feature doesn't really work when you press this button and use the knob. Well, on this particular machine, somebody was smart enough to put a slow switch in, which bypasses the slow feature, and voila, goes into the slow mode automatically. You can flip it back, goes back into normal play. So if you're using the slow feature, you could either add on your own slow feature if you know how to do it, or try to use the one it came with. But sometimes these really get sticky or they just don't work very well. So on this particular machine, it was modified with a slow switch, which they did a very good job, which ties into this modulation board in the front. So there is modifications you can do with the deck if there's something you're trying to, that you want to use, or something you're trying to make the unit do, like the slow feature for slow playback, for checking tapes or whatever you're doing. This particular deck, before I got it, was modified and they did a very good job. I did have to rewire it a little bit because there was a mistake that was made, but we did fix it. Another problem with these machines is the skew, guys, because the plastic gear in the skew that keeps the tension on the tape. I'm currently trying to find somebody that either can do some 3D printing or get some of these plastic gears manufactured. I'd like to get a couple hundred of them made because these gears are a major problem with this deck, which controls your tension. But as far as playback on the Sony AV8650, for perfect picture, I have to give it hands down to the 8650 compared to the Panasonic, because the Panasonic uses a grooved drum, which leaves artifact imperfection video at the top of the video, where the Sony model did not have a grooved drum. It basically plays the tape with no interference of dragging on the top. It's basically a drag mechanism on the lower part of the tape only, just like both units are, but this doesn't have that drum that makes those artifacts at the top of the video, which is a big problem for the Panasonics, which in most cases you could just crop that out. But if you're trying to get a perfect picture, I would recommend the Sony AV8650. The 8600 is a good machine as well, but the 8650 was their flagship, which is the best machine out of all the EIJ machines that were made. But the playback's fantastic, guys. And like I said, I go through audio levels with the mixer to make sure the audio levels are high enough and they're balanced before I capture to my computer. And then you get a fantastic playback if you got a system set up like I do. The playback is just phenomenal off of this machine. But we do go through a time-based corrector frame sync with total gen lock all the way around. That makes your stability and it eliminates a lot of glitches in your video, and it eliminates a lot of the tracking, so you don't have to really go crazy on the tracking with using these machines after you got them up and running. You want a Genlock frame sync TBC all the way around in a system like this, so you can get a beautiful playback like that. That's what you're trying to achieve, and comes out really good. So guys, if you got a Sony Av-8650 like this, hope I answered some of your questions. I have been getting people who have been finding these, and main problem is they say they try to play a tape and it just slows completely down. That's due to motor run capacitors that need to be changed. I have somebody who's got one of these with a color issue. That's got to do with the color card on the left-hand side. And I have somebody who has a color issue. It's really bad, which is probably the Y card and the color card. And if you have an audio problem, it's the audio card to the right. These things do have card problems if these machines have been sitting in some bad environments, especially the 8650s. But again, guys, this is the flagship. It's a really good machine. It's an 8650 made by Sony. If you're looking to get one, it's an EIAJ color black and white standard. This is a very good machine, but do not attempt to use any vintage decks like these if they've not been serviced, and you've got to go to professional equipment if you're looking to make perfect video transfers to professional files like ProRes or whatever you're trying to do. So I hope you enjoyed this video.